could resist. It had to be the mother of all parades. For General Schwarzkopf and almost 9,000 Gulf veterans, the most public of thank yous, a national salute. Not since World War II has Pershing's own U.S. Army band led thousands of triumphant troops through the Capitol.
I think it's one of the greatest things the United States has done in probably the last 30 years. We should have had this for Vietnam.
NBC's Jamie Gangel reported on the last military parade to be held in Washington. It took place in June 1991 to mark the end of the first Gulf War. If President Trump has his way, there could soon be another huge military display in the nation's capital. NBC News has confirmed a Washington Post report that the Pentagon has begun planning for a grand military parade later this year. The president became interested in such a display after he was invited to witness the annual Bastille Day parade in Paris last year. Some lawmakers support the idea, others have dismissed it.
That it's a fantastic waste of money to amuse the president. Take the money that the president would like to spend on this parade. Instead, let's make sure our troops are ready for battle and survive it and come home to their families.
I think it's entirely reasonable to for the nation to be patriotic and to be able to celebrate the people that are serving us, that 1% that actually serves us on national defense. But we've got to also be cautious on how we do spending.
It's really a waste of money, and I think everyone should be offended by his need to always be showing. He's truly Napoleon-like.
This is not about a dictatorship. This is about the president wanting to honor the military.
Joining us now is NBC News Pentagon correspondent Hans Nichols, and here with me in the newsroom, Paul Rieckhoff, founder and CEO of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Hans, Jim Mattis, the defense secretary, was at the briefing a moment ago with Sarah Huckabee Sanders before she spoke, and he was asked about this. He was asked about the money being spent, and here's what he said.
We're all aware in this country of the president's affection and respect for the military. We've been putting together some options. We'll send them up to the White House for decision.
Hans, you've been reporting on this all day. You've said the Pentagon doesn't really see this as a big deal. Lawmakers are chafing at it. They think that it's going to be a waste of money. Is there a reaction from anyone in to that?
Well, on the money side, they simply don't have it costed out yet because, as the secretary's saying, they haven't come up with the final options and what it's going to cost. So, look, if you had F-35s taking off from the National Mall, that would add to the price tag. Depends on what the menu looks like. Just how big of a procession is it going to be? We have a little bit of a comparison because that 1991 parade cost $12 million. In 2017, $18, that'd be about $22 million. Here's the issue with that parade is that part of that parade, about $5 of the $7 million, was paid for by private funding. And that's something that I've picked up in the hallways here now, just in the last couple of hours, that you could have some private sourcing of funding for this if the funding side of this really became an issue and that Republicans and the Secretary of Defense, as well as the President, felt like they were getting criticized for it. They could try to get some private money for it.
Even if it is private money, is this money well spent?
I think that's the question everybody's asking right now. We did a quick Twitter poll, and it's by no means scientific, but 88% of people didn't support this. The reaction we've been getting, and this is across partisan lines, I mean, Republicans, Democrats, everything in between, don't seem to think this is a good idea. And they don't think it's a military necessity. I mean, General Mattis is also just trying to figure out how to recover from the shutdown that really disrupted the military. So the question here is why? Is this a military objective? Because there doesn't seem to be any military reason for a parade. Most of us don't want to do parades. It's logistically draining. It could be expensive. And so it seems political. And if the political goal is to intimidate our enemies or something else, then that's got to be clear. And I think it thrusts, again, our military and veterans into a very politicized environment, as they have been pretty often in the last year and a half.
Take the most generous view of this. Could this be used as a good recruiting tool?
Sure. I mean, yeah, but you're also taking people away from a fight and away from training to do a parade. I mean, you're literally going to have to clean tanks that could be going to the battlefield to go down Pennsylvania Avenue. And look, there could be general support from the public on this, and we definitely need that. But we're also facing VA funding challenges, a spike side rate, and a lot of things that most of the community feels are much more urgent.
Well, is anybody talking about, Hans, a shoring up of the VA with money like that, or giving it to the veterans out there who are in need?
And I haven't picked any of that up today, in part because those are separate revenue streams, right? You have the VA funded under one stream, and then you have the Department of Defense budget, which is under another sort of budgetary line item. So when you talk about the cost of this, you do hear some folks saying here, some officials saying that, look, some of this equipment is just in armories. They just have to move it around a little bit. Others say it could be a little bit more expensive. But it all comes down to, guys, is how grand of a parade is President Trump going to ask for? If he demands a grand parade, that will be an expensive parade. If he has a parade on the cheap, it will be a less expensive parade. It's really the president's decision. And I think the one thing I want to stress here is that the Pentagon is going to provide options and do what the president wants on this mission, as they do on pretty much everything else. Guys?
What about those that say, you know, you're not being a patriot if you don't want to salute our military and support our military?
Everybody supports our military. I mean, that's again, the politicization, using us as a shield or a bludgeon for one party or another. I mean, the last time we had this debate was in 2011 because they said Iraq was over. And now we see that that's obviously not the case. So the question, again, is why? You know, if we're talking about a time when the Gulf War was over, there was an end to operations. There was a chapter being turned and an opportunity to galvanize the nation. I think the president's going to have to articulate why now and to what end.
Paul Rieckhoff, great to see you. I'd love it if you came back more often.
Anytime. Thank you, Katy.
Hans Nichols, always good to see you as well,